Before the sun even clears the horizon, 14-year-old Rohan is already at work. He's out in the freezing mist at the edge of his village, sifting through a massive garbage dump just to keep himself and his 10-year-old sister, Ria, alive. The economics of his survival are brutally precise. He gathers discarded plastic bottles and rusted scrap metal. By the end of a grueling day, that labor yields about 400 rupees, barely $5. It covers a cup of dal, some rice, and a fraction of Ria's school fees. But on this particular morning, his routine breaks. He moves some dirt with his stick and hits something entirely out of place, a pristine, heavy sack, tightly bound with thick rope. No mud, no stains. He drags it into the shadows, cuts the rope, and tears open the plastic inside. Stacks of crisp, perfectly clean 500 rupee notes spill out. He does the math in his head. There are at least 50 bundles here, crores of rupees, tens of millions. For someone entirely marginalized by society, overnight wealth acts as a massive, unmanageable shock. It creates an immediate, violent disconnect between his daily survival and this new, dangerous reality. Rohan attempts a logical strategy to manage this shock. He carefully extracts exactly 10,000 rupees, a tiny fraction of the total, hides the rest under a sleeping mat inside his fragile shack, and goes to the market to buy Ria a new school uniform and finally pay off her pending tuition. This diagram outlines his survival calculus. He drip feeds extreme wealth into extreme poverty, restricting outflow to basic necessities to avoid suspicion. But the hidden principle is a dormant bomb. Inside an unlocked hut, those crows represent a massive, uninsured systemic risk. Almost immediately, his restricted outflow backfires. When the school clerk sees pristine 500 rupee notes paying fees, and his friends notice his clean new shoes, they start asking questions. Small upgrades in an environment where no one has anything become blindingly obvious. In a closed ecosystem of extreme poverty, any unexplained upgrade functions as a homing beacon for unwanted attention. The very capital meant to save Rohan has instead invited immediate and dangerous scrutiny. The psychological toll hits fast. Rohan stops sleeping. He spends his nights staring at the burlap sack in the corner of the room. A rustling leaf, a barking dog, a distant shout, every random sound outside his door mutates into an immediate threat. Then the paranoia finds a real target. A local news broadcast flashes across a screen in the village. A massive heist at a wealthy local builder's house. Crores of rupees stolen, stuffed into a large sack, and missing. The police are scouring the area. The televised report confirms his worst fears. The bag in the corner is a stolen fortune, and Rohan is now an unintentional target for both the police and the original thieves. His fears are confirmed later that afternoon. A tall man in dark sunglasses approaches Rohan's small market stall. He isn't wearing a police uniform, but he asks a very specific question. Has Rohan seen a heavy sack hidden out by the garbage dumps? Rohan has entered what we can call the paranoia economy. When illicit wealth brings severe physical danger, the sheer cost of protecting that asset completely bankrupts the owner's peace of mind. The money owns him, not the other way around. The tension snaps the very next morning. Recognizing the men from the market are closing in on his home, Rohan hoists the crushing weight of the sack onto his back, grabs his sister's hand, and flees straight into the dense forest. Exhausted and cornered, they take shelter behind the ruins of an old temple. The criminals arrive, demanding the bag. But simultaneously, police sirens cut through the trees, accompanied by Rohan's uncle, who had noticed the boy's terrified behavior and called for help. In the middle of this standoff, Rohan makes his definitive choice. He doesn't try to negotiate or run. He opens the bag and shoves the stacks of cash toward the thieves, prioritizing Ria's absolute safety over the fortune. The surrender creates enough of a distraction. Police vehicles flood the temple grounds with flashing lights. The criminals scatter under gunfire. The stolen funds are officially secured, and the wealthy builder is called to the station to identify his property. By voluntarily rejecting the illicit cash, Rohan instantly neutralizes the target on his back. Relinquishing the fortune is the exact mechanism that reclaims his agency and his life. The chaos of the stolen cash ends quietly at the police station. The builder, stunned that a desperately poor scavenger protected his millions, writes out a reward, 5 lakh rupees, about $6,000. This second fortune is entirely different. It is legitimate capital, earned through undeniable integrity. Instead of attracting predators in the dark, it brings the protection and respect of the local authorities. Rohan's uncle assumes the 5 lakh will go toward a new home, but Rohan hands the check over with a firm condition. He refuses to keep it for personal comfort, viewing any hoarded cash as a reminder of the terror he just survived. Instead, he partners with the builder's sister, Anamika. She runs a struggling, underfunded school for impoverished village children. Rohan directs the entirety of his reward to fund her operations. It is a philosophy forged by sheer survival. Keeping wealth isolated under a floorboard proved to be a dangerous liability, but converting capital into community infrastructure creates a permanent, untouchable asset that no one can steal. The 5 lakh rupees physically materialize into solid, lasting resources. The money buys stacks of fresh textbooks, sturdy wooden benches, and functional computers. The facility is officially renamed the Rohan Shiksha Kendra. This graph illustrates the social return on that initial seed money. One boy's decision to forego a payout creates an expanding educational pipeline, giving dozens of children a way out of the extreme poverty he grew up in. Rohan's own reality shifts completely. He no longer scavenges in the mist, hoping to avoid ridicule. He becomes a regular fixture at the school, teaching weekend classes and finding a deep, unshakable sense of security. 2 different fortunes passed through Rohan's hands. One brought a week of terror, while the other, a fraction of the size, provided the books and benches that secured his village's educational future. Rohan eventually found security not in the cash he tried to hide, but in the community he helped build. The school stands as proof that the most valuable assets are the ones you don't have to keep a secret.